one thing that last year when the English department approached me, specifically Jeff, there was a discussion about working with students to really get student skills to increase their student abilities, like within your all's work, within your literature classes and everything. And so one thing I told him that I had seen was literature circles, but I don't really want to go into that as much as it is. I want us to talk about first and foremost, because I know you guys just gave your benchmarks. So let's talk about, I want to take about 45 seconds. Let's talk about your dream students. So as we go into this lesson study, let's first look at what your dream students look like in English. So what's a dream student? What's the perfection? And I'll take notes for you.
They love to read.
Love to read.
They can read. Effectively.
Well, if they love to read, Mr. Surgeon, don't you think they can read?
Well, no, there's a difference between reading and them reading deeply.
Very
Let's say.
true. How about read deeply?
Okay.
Can we do that? Okay. What else does that dream student look like?
Self-motivated.
Self-motivated.
No, this is dream, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Someone who thinks as he or she reads.
And writes.
Active readers. Active, there you go. Good.
Active readers. And would you all like me to put thinking under that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And Becky, you mentioned something about writing.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like to see writing? Like if you had this dream student that wrote, I mean, that would look like.
We talked about this a little bit today, Jeff. Why don't you throw in on that?
They can develop their ideas.
Yeah, and support their ideas from what they've read.
About those two that you were talking about today, that they just wowed you.
Oh,
Why did they wow you?
they wowed me because they were able to, well, like Caitlin said, they were able to make statements. They could support those statements with specific evidence from the text and explain how everything's tied together.
Show their own thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to come up with.
Mhm.
They have their own ideas.
Yeah.
Like they think outside the box, kind of.
Okay, so engaging in their own thinking and thinking out of the box. Or we'll say, we'll go out of the box. How's that sound?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, that's a pretty big list. You guys know what you want or what you'd like to have, and now let's talk about the reality. You guys have just given your benchmark, okay? So now that we know, this is kind of like, we've started our roadmap. So this is our destination, okay? But let's first and foremost, let's create that legend, okay? Or whatever that goes with that map. So tell me, thinking of that benchmark that you guys just recently gave, what is the reality? What did they
I
do?
have trouble comprehending what they've read.
Okay. Trouble comprehending.
And they're very literal.
Very
Yes.
literal. They cannot think figuratively at all.
Very literal,
Not self-motivated.
not figurative. I'll put fig for right now.
Okay.
And what did you say, Caitlin?
Not self-motivated.
Not self-motivated, okay.
And the ones that do read tend to read more for, I guess, entertainment. They don't read that complex literature that has a lot of depth and richness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, read to be entertained, not to learn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or to think.
Okay. What else did you find?
And they aren't active readers at all. I mean, I guess that sort of lends back to that what Jeff just said. The only time they're active readers is when we force them to be.
Okay.
It's not natural.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
not
it's to be
natural,
prompted.
okay. Anything else?
I don't know that they value reading
They don't.
outside of anything that they want to,
Mm-mm.
you know, they don't see the beauty and the value in reading. It's something they have to do for school instead of, you know.
They all want to, like I had a senior this morning, and he's like, I have to get my ACT up. We were talking about college, and he said, it's one of the things I have trouble with is I don't read fast enough. And I said, you have to read. You have to be a consistent reader. You never get faster
Mhm.
unless you're consistent, unless you're always reading. And he said,
Because
I wish somebody
consistency
had
makes
told me that.
fluency.
Yeah, he said, I wish somebody had told me that years ago.
Mm.
Yeah,
So they're not fluent,
right.
or would you want to put that up there, like? they-
Or strategic, would that be the word?
I
Cause
don't-
I mean.
You all
really
tell me,
not.
because this is your alls. Do you want to?
I think both.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
So not strategic or
Because
fluent?
fluency, if you have strategy, fluency can fall second place
Right.
if you have strong strategies.
Mhm.
But if you don't have any strategies,
Strategy.
strategy. Yeah.
So let's look at this then, and I'm gonna go for a different color now. When you look at this list, because we know our dream, but let's look at the reality. So let's look at the reality. If you could find one thing on this list that would make impact on everything else. Like for instance, from the outside looking in, because I'm a social studies person, so outside looking in, the part that would bother me is they read to be entertained, not to learn or think.
Mhm.
Because I need, as a social studies teacher, I need my students to read, to learn, and to think. I need them to do both of those.
I think if we made them active readers,
Mhm.
That it would solve everything
I
else.
think it would.
Let me throw something out too.
Uh-huh.
What about strategies? If we stuck with that, active reading is a strategy,
Mhm.
so that would encompass that.
Mhm.
Or if they could comprehend what they read,
With
then they could
strategies,
become,
Okay, so let me go back. So which one did you say, Jeff? I'm trying to
Active.
I
backtrack.
think, yeah, the active.
So active, so let me ask you this. Could it take a strategy to make them active?
Yes.
Can you do that?
Yes,
Can one feed the other?
probably.
Right, yeah, even if you could say they're active, they'll employ strategies for different types of reading.
Mhm.
right,
Okay, so gotta have consensus here. Do you guys feel like for you guys in sophomore English, that making them active readers is gonna be the goal? Okay. Now, that being said, you've already said then, so I think we can combine this. Let's come over here and say we're gonna create, or we're gonna find a strategy that will create those active readers.
Mhm.
Because that's gonna be something that they can kind of look at. So that being said, one thing that Jeff and Becky, you guys had talked about last semester was the literature circles. So let's go up here and let's talk a little bit about those literature circles and what you think, because I think in order for you to know, and actually, what I'm gonna do above this is put active reading. I'm gonna change that, because I think that would fit better here. Okay? We'll put literature circles over here. So let's say in active reading, student learning looks like what? So what do they do in active reading? Tell me everything they do. What was the, thank you. See, this is why I'm in an English class. Go
close
ahead.
reading strategies,
Okay, close reading strategies.
they can summarize,
Yeah.
they can annotate.
Okay, go slow. Close reading. Close reading, annotate,
Mhm.
Summarize,
summarize.
Shoulder thinking, of course, that's the annotation.
Okay.
so.
I'm gonna put this beside of that, because as a social studies person, that is something that would be really important to me.
And also, with like my kids, they can sometimes identify a simile, but I want them to know why it's there, how it
Right.
contributes to
So what do you
the
call that?
Analyze.
What do we call those things?
Yeah.
Analyzing.
Vocabulary?
Not just identifying figurative language, but analyzing.
Yeah, analyzing.
Analyzing why the writer or the author used that particular.
Craft or-
Yeah.
Ooh,
I have a
let's write that. I
question.
like that word, analyzing author's craft.
Mhm.
And that would apply to like everything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so if they can do all of those things in active reading, then let's go back to then, over here, now let's bring in those literature circles that you guys have talked about. Because see, most of the time in lesson study, and this is something that's very different for us in Appalachia, because we are rural. And that is, you know, when you go to other schools where they do lesson studies, they do the same lesson, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 times, sometimes 6 times, because they have anywhere from 4 to 12 teachers that teach the same class.
Mhm.
And that's just not the
And we have
reality for
3.
us. Yeah, that's not us. So we have 2 to 3 that teach the same one. So in this, and you know that the curriculum is aligned, it's been planned together, it's been designed together. So now what you have to really get into sometimes with you all is strategies, instructional strategies now. And one that you all, talked about several times last semester was literature circles. So let's talk about the shifts that are going to have to take place for you all to do those literature circles. Because ideally, once you all, because now what has to happen is that, and you all need to decide this, who's going to be the first one to model it for the other two to come in and watch it. I think you've been chosen, Jeff. So we have the first one.
All those in favor?
So as Jeff does this, because what happens in the lesson study, what happens is that you guys will come in and you will watch, because the big thing that we're going to be looking at in the literature circles, we're not going to look at Jeff teaching.
Can
We're
we
not-
call it literature circle / stations?
Ooh. Now, why would you say stations? What are you thinking? It could be anything you want because
Because
it's your all
I'm
stuff.
thinking of all these, strategies here, what an active reader would look like, and I could see those set up as stations even.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
So the students physically move to each station and do that as a group?
Perhaps.
Yes.
And then maybe, okay, I can see what you're doing there, because if you do literature stations initially, you can build the circles
Right.
where they can do it independently.
Right.
But first you
Because
want to
it-
teach it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice move there, Miss Potter.
Thank you.
I like that. I'm digging that. Okay. What are you thinking, Mr. Surgeon?
I'm not.
And he may have students
Can your
that
kids
are
already
ready.
do that? Yeah.
He
He
may
has
have
honors.
kids that already can do
Probably.
Well, apparently not, because he contributed greatly to the dream over here and to the reality of this. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, and I'm not putting your students down. Please do not take it that way. But what I'm saying is that you've had a great deal to contribute here. Maybe they're not doing it to the level they need to be at. So see, that's as much as of a need. I mean, we can't let those kids who do well, who are honors, just sit there on their laurels.
Right.
We have a responsibility to push them just as hard as we do
I
the
tell
kids.
you what I see is the stronger kids, the honors kids, read to please my teacher and to complete a task. And they
is
do that well, but they're
Yes.
not reading
Is that really active reading?
exactly. And then in our non-honors classes, we see kids that struggle with comprehension and just word calling and basic
Don't
reading
care.
skills. Yeah, they
They
just
do it
wanna
or
get
not.
through it.
Wow.
Your honors want to please their teacher, but I don't know that they actually read because,
Actively.
yeah.
They figured out the game
Yes.
a long, long time ago.
And I'm sure Jeff can chime in. The more open an activity is, the more they are totally
Yeah,
freaked out.
right, yeah.
It's like, tell me what I'm supposed to do,
Uh-huh.
and I'll do it.
Uh-huh.
But don't ask me to.
And tell me how good I am
Yeah.
at it. Because you better put that A on my paper.
That's true.
But then once
Yeah.
you do that, we're good, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally see
Yeah.
that. I totally see
Yeah,
that.
because when on our first test, they wanted to know the topic, they wanted to know how long it had to be, they wanted to know,
Uh-huh.
you had to tell them everything.
Okay.
And Mr. Surgeon's the king of openness.
So let's
tell
talk-
me, how long should it be?
So let's talk about that shift then. So let's talk about those shifts that are gonna have to take place. And if we're gonna go into literature stations and circles, eventually get to circles, I really like that, Becky. Because the whole idea that you're gonna just throw these things at these kids, I mean, you talk about some of those kids oh my gosh, this is gonna shut them down. They're not gonna go into it naturally. So I like what you've done here. So let's talk about the shifts then. So let's go to yours. So initially, what's gonna be the reaction by the students?
With the stations?
Yeah, with the stations and.
I mean, we do a lot of station work already, so I don't think it's gonna be that big
But
of
for those kids that you just said a second ago, that the honors kids, they're gonna be uncomfortable.
Oh, for the honors kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to think about them too.
The honors kids, I think they like working together, but it depends
Yeah.
on who they're with,
Yeah.
because they wanna get it finished. So
Okay.
if they,
So we're gonna require planning,
and grouping,
Lots
conscious
of
grouping,
planning.
strategic.
Grouping.
okay? Oops, and then I'm gonna put some of that strategic, okay? What's gonna be another shift that we're gonna have to make?
Well, with the stations, it's gonna have to be, short pieces of literature.
Okay. Shorter pieces,
Once we get to the circles, we can do more long, longer ones, but,
okay, shorter pieces and
and
stations.
it'll have to probably be, pieces that they read in class to begin with,
Okay,
and not expect them to read outside of class.
okay. So get them in the habit.
It's
So
also
maybe-
putting more responsibility on them.
Oh, yeah.
So like doing more on their own, more independent work.
So management, classroom management.
Mm.
Yes.
And I apologize for my handwriting. As it gets to the bottom, it gets worse. Okay, so we're gonna have to really, so these two are gonna be really hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So with the stations, are you gonna have them walk to the stations, sit down as a group and do that activity and then move on
So
to the
the
next one?
transition will be something we'd have to look at. the
Oh, well,
transition.
some groups, correct,
Yeah.
may have to have the things moved to them because they
Mhm.
can't handle moving, which goes back
Okay.
to your management. You know,
Okay.
you may have to have
Right.
baskets.
And you have to
stuff.
make that call.
Right,
Or I
right,
got,
right,
I got a
which is
class with
currently
30
happening.
kids.
Or if you, there's a.
Movement
and
could take a big
movement
chunk of your
could-
time.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so you have 30,
I
so
got
you don't want
30.
everybody moving around
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So I want to come back over here for a second then, and I want you guys to really think about, because you've got what the student learning is going to look like, and now you've identified some of those shifts. The big thing I want you to think about now is when you're going to do it, so I want to write that here. So when are we going to do this? The first time. And I think the other thing that we have to look at when we do this is we're only going to be looking at the student learning.
Mhm.
We don't look at the teacher or the instruction in any way because we know the instruction is there. We know that you guys know that content like no other. We know that you know your students. We know that you have planned with great intention. Everything is there. But in this case, because you can look at instruction every day and then you keep saying, test scores aren't changing, or this is not changing, or our students' ability to actively read is not changing, and we get really frustrated as teachers. Then all of a sudden we realize what we've never really looked at is we've only looked at completed work. We've never looked at student thinking and student learning within the activity. And so now we're going to have the opportunity to do that with lesson study. So I think it's phenomenal that you guys have chosen that, and you've chosen a strategy that. Do you feel that this is going to be flexible enough that once you master this is something you can do all the time and it will address these? Do you feel that?
Mhm.
Do you feel that, Mr. Surgeon?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm really just about to cough.
Okay, we're trying to keep you from coughing. So that being said, when do we want the first one? And the most important thing, and you got to remember too, Jeff, if you're going to be the first one, then that planning segment is going to be crucial. Because when you think about planning and grouping, the planning right here, you're going to have to make sure that you've planned the pieces. So I really wish I'd put another one up here, so let's talk about plan.
Cause you're the oldest.
Yeah,
And the best.
so you've got the
wisest.
pieces, movement. We have to plan the pieces that you're going to use. You're going to have to plan how you want to move it. You're going to move those students around. And you also have to plan for logistics, the other logistics, and that is telling the kids, are you going to have a sheet at that station, or are you going to have a sheet on top that says, okay, now you're going to do this, and now you're going to do
Or
that.
you're gonna have a teacher at
Some
stations.
station.
Of course, you don't have, with your classes, you don't have any extra help at all, do you?
Nope.
So you're not going to, so you really have to put some planning into that.
Mhm.
So let's think about that in terms
But
of
he
our
can have
calendar.
student leaders.
Mhm.
Now, you could.
Depends on the class.
So you choose he's gonna do it in one class to begin with, right? So
And you all
he
come in and
chooses.
watch.
Mhm.
So that's the other thing, and this is why it's good to bring you guys in. What we'll have to do, because initially, once we do this, we have to arrange for coverage for that
Yeah,
time
sure.
period.
Mhm.
Because once they get, because the thing is, once they perfect this and they realize it addresses all of these things and this gets going, then this is something in their toolkit that will work forever and ever. The whole idea behind this is to perfect strategies and to really see how they impact learning. Because let's all face it, I mean, sometimes we do phenomenal lesson plans and we do those and it's like, oh my God. The kids complete and they got great grades, but then you go back and you take the test and it's like, wait a minute, did we just do this in class? We gotta look at the learning that's
And
inside
how do
those
you
lessons.
see this spreading to other teachers and classes?
Well, I think that everybody, and I think especially considering that here, you only have 1 or 2 teachers teaching per class. And I think that when we look at this in terms of strategies, that what happens is that you can develop strategies across grades and across subjects and across content. So you have sophomore English and junior English. Well, if this becomes something everybody can do, then you can pass it on.
Or at least it's process. Like
It's
how
all
you
about the
took us from
process.
the dream to, here's what we need to do.
Exactly.
It may not be literature circles or stations, it could be whatever those teachers feel like they need in their classroom to address those.
And now what happens
That
is
learning.
the next time that I come back, and you guys will have these sheets because I'm going to give those to you. When I come back the next time, Jeff will have done the lesson. You guys will have come in and watched and done, and it would be great if one of you two are available to do that, or both of you.
Sure.
And you don't interact. You don't talk to them. You just listen and you take notes and you write down what they say and what they're doing. And Jeff just does his thing. He facilitates in this case it's going to be facilitation, but he facilitates the activity, and you guys just listen to the students and see what they're doing, and you take notes on that. And then we come back and we tell Jeff, well, here's what we saw, because for all we know, some of those kids that you were talking about, those honors kids that are going to have that hard transition initially, oh my gosh, they're going to be over there, they're going to be asking a lot of questions. Well, Jeff needs to know that.
Mhm.
He needs to know, okay, guess what, logistically, this didn't work as well. So maybe think about fixing this, so Becky gets to fix that. Because she'll be the next one
The
that
next
does it.
round, yeah.
I was gonna pick Caitlin.
Okay. So when Caitlin does it for the
So
second.
by the time
We'll be sending
perfect.
A's.
For Becky to try.
So,
Yeah. So can you guys kind of see how this, and I'm glad you asked that, Becky, because I think the big thing is, we all know our dream. I could fill this out just for a social studies student, period. But when you come to the reality, most of the time, when you look at that reality list, there's one that's always on there that you know that if you do that, it kind of helps the other rest, that you can kind of feed into those. So the process is looking at the dream, facing the reality, then finding that one thing, and then taking it further into that. But I think the big thing for you to take this to the other departments and everything is for them, this right here is vital.
The process.
That's a big step. And that's one step that I had not done in another lesson study that I had done, but I had gotten from these lovely people. Okay. So, yeah. So I think that's one thing to really think about, is looking at that dream, so. And looking at the reality, because that's very important. So Jeff, you're first. Caitlin, you're second. Becky, you're third. So we're gonna write that down. So put this in a different color, because guess what, Becky? This goes in your room, okay?
Okay.
Keep these forever and ever. So here we go. So Jeff, Caitlin with a C, right?
Yes.
C-A-I,
Uh-huh.
L-I-N?
Yes.
Awesome. Becky is third. Okay, wonderful. We're gonna have a coverage arranged, that's awesome. So when? That's
We'll need
huge.
to look at the pacing guide and see what we
Yeah.
got coming up.
Okay. Can we try for
See,
next
I'm
week?
off. I'm doing unit 2, they're doing unit 1.
Okay, that's okay.
But-
That's even better.
Okay.
Because this is gonna be a lesson, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh. You all could not have gotten any better than that. Because this is gonna be a lesson they're gonna be doing anyway. They're gonna really like you. Which is
You're gonna have it
which is a
planned
step
for
ahead.
ahead of time.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
His content's a little different.
Yeah.
But just a smidge.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be good. Well, that's great. That's phenomenal. So Jeff, I need by Friday to know when you're gonna do it next week. Okay?
Next week.
Yeah.
We don't have any testing schedules or anything this week.
Round Monday and Tuesday, but
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Got it? How you feel about that? Now let me ask, I want to ask the two administrators in here, and this will be the last thing we do. How do you guys feel about this process? I know that's brand new. I know it looks very different. But how are you feeling about it?
I love this process.
Good.
Absolutely. I think we always put, like you said, the emphasis on the teacher,
Mhm.
and it's not always a teaching issue, it's a learning issue. We've got strong teachers. We're all working really hard. And so I feel like it's let's just see if we're working in the right direction, and that cliche, smarter, not harder.
Mm.
You know, when you watch the kids, then you're gonna see, because like I said, we always come in and watch, or that traditionally. I go in and talk to the kids a lot, you learn a lot from talking with them
Oh,
and so
absolutely.
forth, but I don't know, what do y'all
I think it mirrors like what you've gone towards in the science standards as well, and I know that's totally something different, but as far as it's based on student processes that they're using, not so much what content they have, but how they're acquiring it.
Mhm.
And so it's still the same premise there, I think.
Because here's something that the shift that's going to happen, and I'm just going to tell you guys as administrators, it's scary. It's the shift that's happening. It is not the teacher's voice, or the teacher's thinking, or the teacher's writing, or anything that matters. It's the students thinking, reading, writing, and speaking. Because when you look at the standards, it doesn't say, and I tell the people this in training,
I say nowhere in there does the teacher will. It says the student will. And we have to let them do that. We have, and it's not, I think that's why I hurried and wrote down uncomfortable after you said that, because it is gonna be so uncomfortable for both sides. So you guys are blazing it. I mean, you guys have always blazed a trail anyway. I think in the English department, I think in many ways, but just like you said with science, I mean, this is the trend. And when you look at social studies, you know, they keep saying that they anticipate that it's gonna mirror the science.
Yeah.
And boy, you talk about big shifts there, it's gonna be big shifts.